Welcome to another edition of the Deals for Dentists podcast. And today we're joined by Dr. Paul Goodman. And you can go to dealsfordentist.com and you can find his promo offer for the Dentist Job Connect program. And you can get $200 off the Dentist Job Connect program. Bring to life your associate opportunity to over 32,000 dentisting humans. So, Paul, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Love getting to know you, Eric. Love what you're doing. Love your message. Really honored to be here.
So I had on my calendar today, it said Dr. Nacho at 12 noon. How did this whole thing happen? Like, how did you just become like Madonna and Prince, like one name?
I'm known for teaching by writing on a whiteboard, drawing pictures. So there's two things. I always say the movie Philadelphia. I live in Philadelphia. Denzel Washington said in that movie, explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old. And I love that because that's how you should teach people. Basic things, the opposite of dental school. They make it too complex. And also Bob Ross would say there's a happy accidents. Mistakes are happy accidents. So Dental Nachos was part of that because back in 2017, when Facebook groups were becoming popular and most groups anyone had was like 5,000 members, I said, I want to start my own to talk about implants and practice management. And I have a lot of strong opinions. And while I contribute to a lot of groups, I try to not overpower or speak out of turn. So I said, I'm going to make my own. And I said, what should I call it? My wife and I sat down and she said, well, I love nachos. I worked at a Mexican restaurant. I'm a broker. I'm a speaker. I'm a dentist. I'm a practice owner. I have a lot of toppings. Let's call it Dental Nachos. And I just thought, Eric, there'd be like a couple hundred people on it talking about implants. But in the happy accident way, and I think I loved your speech at Dentistry's Got Talent about the Dino Nuggets. People love nachos. It's the golden retriever puppy of appetizers. So I think people thought it was to post pictures of nachos. So people were just posting pictures of nachos, which I think was making people happier because they said, man, those look like good nachos. So I think it took on this super fun vibe about my motto in life is be very serious about helping people, but you don't have to take yourself too seriously. Dentists take themselves way too seriously. And I wanted to bring a fun, but serious, but spicy vibe. So it's for any dentisting human, dentists, brokers, assistants, spouses of dentists. But you know, it's funny, in the beginning, you could add people to Facebook groups and then they would have to approve if they want to be in it, right? They didn't used to have to make you approve it. You could just add people. So occasionally I would go through my friend list and say, oh, this is my friend from dental school. This is this. And I would add them. And I accidentally clicked on my wife's friend. And I said, sorry, you can just leave the group. And one of them goes, no, I kind of like it. It's pretty interesting, right? So I like to hear what dentists talk about. So that is my vibe, a group for everybody to talk about the toppings of life, toppings of dentistry, and get spicy. But our courtship is fun. Courtship's kindness and respect for one another. So that's where that came from.
And how many followers are in this group?
Yeah, now we have over 33,000. I mean, I think there's a lot of great Facebook groups. And, hey, if you go and hang out, some groups are for dads, some groups are for teenagers, some groups are for assistants. This one is really for everybody. So that's why I call them Dentisting Humans. They're up to 33,000. And I think what's kind of unique is people don't realize whether it's Instagram or Facebook, and this is just a message for everybody. Constantly repeat your good content. We all watch these reruns of shows that we love, reruns of movies. How many times have people seen Good Will Hunting or Fight Club? Those are the ones I like. So sometimes people say, Paul, I already saw this post about why you don't like dental insurance. I said, yeah, but we get 500 new people a month, and I want them to see it. So that's just my message of constantly repeat good content because people might not see it who are new to your platform.
So I like how you said, nachos, there's so many toppings and you have so many things going on, but one of your newest toppings is this Dentist Job Connect program. Can you tell me all about that?
For sure. So Dental Nachos is a group for collaboration, community, be together, but it's also about solving problems. And I've seen the biggest problem. There's 4 major decisions dentists make. I know we'll talk about that: finding a job, buying a practice, hiring an associate, and selling their practice. And one of the challenges is finding your first job and hiring your first associate are 2 major steps that they don't give us enough information about. Eric, I don't want to take up the whole podcast with this question, but could you talk about that class in dental school where they taught you how to find a job and not sign a bad contract? Do you remember that class? Because I don't remember mine.
I think I skipped that day because the first job I got was a total nightmare and I didn't even get paid. I worked there for like 2 months and the guy declared bankruptcy and I never got paid. It was a total disaster. So I must have missed that day as well.
So to me, I have developed, and I'm a kid of the 80s, Dear Abby, I used to read it every week, every day. Dear Dr. Nacho Abby. So I'm so thrilled to be this person. I don't know how I got to be this person, but people feel very comfortable telling me a lot of things who've never met me. And the way they tell me this is through Facebook Messenger. And I totally appreciate and feel honored that people feel like they can tell me when they're not being paid or things aren't going well, or is this right? But I want to share, I'm not qualified to answer all these. Sometimes you need an attorney. Sometimes you need an accountant. Sometimes you need, which is also a psychologist. Sometimes you need a practice management consultant. But what I found is the theme of my job isn't going well, or how do I find an associate, was two of the biggest questions. So I founded Dentist Job Connect, run by my amazing sister, Jill. And we focus on just one thing. Unlike Dental Nachos, a lot of topics. Find your first job, hire your first associate. Right now, the platform allows dentists. I'm a big affordable for all type person and a Henry Ford of nachos. I like Henry Ford, the Model T. So to share some insight, Eric, if a DSO needs an associate and they call me and say, hey, Paul, you're the nacho guy. We need a dental associate because our dentist got injured. We bought a practice from a 62-year-old dentist and he needs shoulder surgery. And he's not coming back for 6 months, and we need a dentist. If I take Dr. Guac and introduce him to Eric Block's DSO, do you know how much DSOs tend to pay for that connection? Do you have any idea if this was the Price is Right, Eric? Do you know what they pay?
No idea.
So there's a few ways, but the most often I would tell you is $10,000 to $20,000, no questions asked. Okay, 10 to 20. It can be 30% of the first year's salary, right? So that's 150 grand, 30%. Because, Eric, here's why. If they have a practice and this Dr. Salsa Seller was doing $60,000 a month and they don't have someone for 3 months, that's not just Dr. Salsa Seller 60, that's the whole office with hygiene.
Yeah.
So if they can't produce 300,000, they gladly say, hi, Nacho guy, this is from a brokering, here's $10,000 for this connection, because they're business people. Of course, they'd rather have an associate they meet at a nacho place, but they need someone, right, Eric? So I've used a lot of times this match.com. It's like dating, but it's really more like care.com, because I don't know if this is a time I can open up for you, Eric, but I'm having a tough week. This is true. My amazing babysitter who worked with us 3 days a week and also worked with Dental Nachos decided to move to San Diego. I tried to tell her San Diego was a terrible place. I tried to tell her it was closed. So Eric, you are dead. I had this person who helped run our life 3 days a week. Let's say we paid her, I'm just going to $120 a day. I don't know what we paid her exactly. It's not about me paying the $360 a week. It's about me needing someone to replace her for my children. So I would go to care.com, sitter.com, and look for ones. They've made this. So I'm trying to make this for dentists, but I know our dentist people. Have you ever noticed, Eric, our dentist people, they're a bit cheap. Have you noticed a special level of frugality?
I have noticed that's quite a common theme.
And that's why they probably love your podcast, Deals for Dentists. Save me on Impress Me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you can be penny wise and dollar foolish. My best friend, whose dad was an amazing entrepreneur, he went to New York City once and he parked on the street and his car got towed. And his dad said, what is wrong with you? You went to a club, you spent money. Why'd you park on the street? He goes, it was $20 for the street, $50 for the parking garage. He said, well, that was penny wise, dollar foolish. So now when I go over to the private practice world, and I'm a uniter of all and a kind annoyer of all, many private practice dentists don't want to pay $10,000 for an associate. Many of them think that is a ripoff, Eric. Now, if we could just pause, if I found you an associate and your associate was producing $50,000 a month and you needed one, does $10,000 sound like a ripoff, or is it actually a pretty good deal for that solution?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're down, you need to keep, you got to keep those chairs going. You got to keep that business going.
How about this, Eric? It's not even about money. It's about morale. What if you're so stressed by checking 3 hygienists yourself? But I know my people, and I know they weren't going to go for the 10,000. So I said, I'm going to come up with a better mousetrap, nacho mousetrap. So what we've created is an opportunity for dentists to advertise their position on our Dentist Connect job platform. We put it out to all of our mechanisms of connection: Facebook, Instagram, text message, email list. There's no success guarantee, but let's just use the recording of this podcast, for 6 months for the equivalent of like $1,600, something in that range, right? They can advertise and look for an associate. They don't have to pay the 10,000. That's still there. You want the 10,000, you can do it. But what I'd like to do is scale help. So when we were at Elijah's event, did you see Dr. Ankur Gupta there, the MC?
Yep.
Well, he's awesome. I never met him. I was at the gym in the early in the morning. I say, Encore, it's great. He goes, oh, I used your Dentist Job Connect platform. It was great. I go, oh, did it work? Oh, yeah, we hired an associate. I go, you never told us, Encore. So he told me. So he used it and he was successful. So what I'm doing with this is trying to scale help in a way that's affordable for all, has value, makes it fun, lets you meet people. So that's what we're doing there. Is practice owners can advertise. The job seekers right now are either free or have a very low VIP special. And my goal, Eric, is to be like this care.com, match.com, where people go to us when they need help, when they need to decrease stress, bring their money in. The DSOs are also welcome to advertise on this platform too. They tend to just like this high level matchmaking solution. So does that make sense to you? We kind of have this high level solution and this fun, scalable way to do it.
Yeah. And I agree with everything you said about decreasing stress, because if you're running around, if you're down an associate or your practice is just getting to the point where you're so busy and you're just, running around like a chicken with your head cut off, it is exhausting. Or let's say you want to, focus on a different modality. Like personally, I'm starting to add clear aligners into my practice, and we just hired another associate. So I'm going to start to filter procedures that I was doing before over to her schedule so I can focus more on some other things.
So you want to share the joy of class 2 composites with your associate, right?
Oh yeah. There's nothing like a quadrant of class 2s. Yeah. So the fact that you said you tried to tell your babysitter that San Diego is closed cracked me up, because I remember in the movie Vacation when he punches Wally World's nose and someone says, they don't close Florida.
That's great. I love that movie.
So yeah, I think that, being an associate, getting your first job is an extremely stressful time. When I first got out of school, I just wanted a job. I didn't care where it was. I just wanted to make money. And I got caught up in some bad situations and I stayed way too long. And I wish I had someone, to kind of guide me better, or I could do a little better research of what these, positions were all about. Then I had some other associateships that were awesome.
But it shouldn't be based on randomness. The students new dentists have $300,000 to $600,000 in debt. They've also spent their whole life doing this. We deserve to bond in a way that's productive for both the associate and the owner. We just need more responsible information. If you come to Philadelphia, Eric, and I was like, hey, go down this alley, give this guy some money, and he'll give you nachos. You're like, that doesn't sound right, right? But people are doing this with jobs all the time. They go, Paul, and they're awesome people. The practice asked me to have a 20-mile restrictive covenant and have a draw. Is this normal? I go, no, it's not normal at all. I know it sounds like normal words. And then for practice owners, I'm an equal opportunity kind of lawyer, Eric. If you came to me and said, hey, Paul, I want an associate. I want someone to work with me 4 days a week. I want to pay him $300 a day. I'll be like, I'm not advertising your position, Eric. The going rate is $600 a day, $500 a day. And you know what you say most of the time? Okay, I'll pay $500 or $600. You just don't know, right? You're out of the game. You're a 52-year-old owner. We're here to help. And I'm here to bring people together. And, I know I get passionate about this and I love a lot of things I do, but what's more important than getting dentists employed, right? I mean, it's a pretty important thing to move our industry forward.
Yeah, you made a really good point there. Let's say I'm 46 years old, and I've been growing a practice. I'm in a solo practice. I've been out of the game for so long. I don't know what the going rate is. Right. But I think it's also important for people looking for an associate to do it for the right reasons. Because, like I said, I had some really bad situations and I was treated like garbage. So if you're looking to hire an associate, do it for the right reasons. Right. You want to keep them busy, treat them well, because you don't want to have turnover. If you have a revolving door of associate dentists coming through, that's not a good look, and it's not good for morale. And you just, and it's not cost effective.
What's crazy, Eric, is it's such an important thing for your culture because you're turning over your patients to a dentist. Be purposeful about it. And I'm not talking just about Dentist Job Connect, but listen to podcasts, talk to consultants, see how are you going to integrate this routine. Here's a good value tip for your listeners. What do you say when you hire your first associate And Millie says, I don't want to see the associate. I want to see old Doc Eric. What does old Doc Eric say? Because mostly what old Doc Eric thinks he's going to say is going to mess it up. So if you want to know, I'll tell you exactly what old Eric will say. But what do you think most conflict-averse dentists are going to say when the Millie says, I don't want to see young Dr. Sally. I want to see old Doc Eric. Can I see old Doc Eric? How does old Doc Eric usually mess this up?
Well, first I'd have to think, is Millie crazy? If Millie's got crazy eyes, I may not want to see her. But if Millie's pretty cool, then I'll say, you can see the new, actually, I wouldn't say the word new. I would say,
great. Don't say
new to our practice, but a very, an awesome associate, or you can wait 2 months to see me.
I'll just add in some value because this has happened to me and everybody learns from their own mistakes. I was a new dentist. My dad has so this is what you say. Millie, I am so honored. You only want me to be your dentist. I'm so honored. She smiles. Here's how this could work. We're so excited to have Dr. Sally here, not new, just like you said, great. And this is all you have to say. I am totally comfortable with Dr. Sally doing this filling in my mouth. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to have this done with Dr. Sally. She's trained all the up-to-date techniques. And if you have any problem, Millie, contact me after the appointment. I use that. Millie now feels honored, and she now has 2 dentists. But if old Doc Eric says, okay, squeeze you in my schedule, you undermine your associate and you shouldn't even have one. And I also want to share in this scenario, Eric, these are only for procedures you feel comfortable with the associate doing. So don't have your associate do a full mouth rehab. That's not fair to anybody. I'm talking about class 2s, crown and number 30, restoring an implant. So people just get freaked out. So they say, I don't want this new dentist to restore my implant. Say, oh, thank you, Millie, for only wanting me. But I want to share the joy of, as I say this all the time, I want to share the joy of your mouth with another dentist, right? And they love that.
Well, what you said was so on point, and you were really talking about staff onboarding there, because we need to, okay, so I'm hiring an associate, but the staff needs to know about this, and they all need to be on board with this, because they need to be able to relay that information to the patients. Because I remember when we had our endodontist for the first time come in, I kept saying we have this new endodontist, and my patients were like, I don't want to see a new endodontist. I want to sit with someone who's been experienced. I'm like, oh, he's been working for 20 years. But that was my first introduction to how to introduce someone new to the practice. So I really like how you said that.
What happens is our brain just tells us to say words that make sense, that freak people out. Version 2. Yep. So just say, hey, we are so excited to have added Dr. Sally. We're so excited Dr. Endo's part of our team. And just, don't say new, don't say virgin. That's just weird. Why are people saying virgin in dental offices? You want to make your patients feel weird? You're unlikable enough already. Your tooth is a hopeless virgin failure. Who talks like this, right?
It's so true. It does feel so weird when you say that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like such a creep when I say that. Yeah. I'm from this podcast forward, I'm never saying that again.
Yeah, thanks. You just don't say it.
Just don't say it. So say let's Dr. Nacho, we're going back, 20 years when you were first an associate. What would you do differently back then, from what you've learned in your 20 years of practicing?
Really great question. I think this is so much value. So when a dentist tells you what they would do differently, they have to put it in the context of what dentistry is like today, and also couple it with what it was like for them at the time. It's both valuable. So I have this little guy here, and I would work on my dentist and core more. So I got very into trying to do endo, crown lengthening, implants, and I thought I could be a super GP. I did a multi-year general practice residency. It's nearly impossible to be a super GP, and it's terrible for your stress level. So over time, I focused on implant dentistry, built a team of dentists around me to do other stuff. If I was going to be a new dentist today, after a GPR or an AGD, I would focus a lot on my word skills. I would do virtual Toastmasters. I would go to as much C as possible, and I would stop worrying about taking veneer courses. And I would start worrying about how I talk to patients about treatment plans, how I plan things, because dentists, and it happens because dental school does not teach us the right way. If you owned Eric's House of Pasta and you were a new pasta dentist, you would just take CE on making better pasta. And what you should take CE on is how to charge your how to charge your customers for the pasta, how to hire the people who work at the front, how to describe the pasta on the menu, what to say when people don't like the pasta. Those are your dentist and core, your mind, your words, and your hand skills. How does a P&L work? I would have stopped worrying so much about clinical, none, and put more effort on my patient communication and my leadership skills early in my career.
Yeah, that's such a great point. When I came out of dental school, I was 29, but I looked like I was 15. So I was had such imposter syndrome when I was talking to patients, and I was always worried they weren't going to rebook with me. And what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? And then, so there was that whole thing. I didn't know how to talk to patients because, like you said, we were never taught that. In fact, in dental school, we talked over the patient like they weren't even there. We talked about the patient, which is just not reality.
Right.
And
you did the opposite of with him. Everything in life is with them. What's in it for them? And we just got weird about it, right? We focused on the. I mean, imagine if you show up at a personal trainer. This is what people do now. So like, hey, I'm here at the personal trainer. And the personal trainer's like, just want to let you know you're fat. Yeah, I got it. I'm fat. I just want to let you know you can't jump. I also know I can't jump. We just make people feel bad about themselves. It's so terrible. It's toxic. Why is it toxic, Eric? Mostly, second reason, costs us money. First reason, patients don't move forward. Second reason, money. First reason, if you show up at a personal trainer and said, I'm here to learn about personal training and being better, and they told you about periodontal disease and why your bone stunk, you would just not show up again. Out of morale, you wouldn't be mad. You'd be like, I guess I shouldn't do this. So I say, so glad you showed up. I try to say one nice thing. You're doing a great job brushing that front tooth. Really good. But let's focus on things that we can make better. Let's focus on things we can make better. So we just do it in the opposite way. We turn people off. We learn to talk to patients like they're weird other dentists, and we're not seeing weird other dentists. I see one dentist, my brother. I don't know if I want to see him. He sees me. That's it. The rest of the people I see are normal people. So why are we talking about dentists? The mesial part of your tooth. What the hell does that mean, right? Over here in the mesial, it's going to super erupt. Okay, I don't care. Tooth's going to fall down in the front part. Talk like I'm a normal person. I'm going to come up with a whole A to B, C's of patient communication book, which is going to be like this. Yeah. Don't say virgin, say tooth without a filling. Yeah. Don't say failed, say tooth needs to be replaced. So,
like when a first molar, I'll actually say, this tooth you've had since you were 6 years old. And, instead of saying this number 19 first molar, this is your 6-year molar. You've had it since you were 6. Yeah. It's taken a lot of wear and tear. You just got to talk to them like normal people and not like other dentists. So I totally agree with you, what you said on going back and just really learning verbal skills can make you a great productive dentist. And then also what you said about trying to be a super dentist. I got caught up in some poor case selection, some poor patient selection early on in my career. And some cases didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped, and those stick with you. So be very careful with your patient selection and case selection.
Your listeners are lucky to have you. So we had that awesome opportunity to talk about your speech at Elijah's event, and you did an awesome job, right? But if like Elijah came up to you at the start of the event and said, hey, Eric, I want you to deliver a 1-hour uninterrupted monologue in front of all the people. We think you could do it. You'd be like, I can't do that. We need to do that in dentistry. We need to teach our young dentists or any dentist to be like, no, this is not for you. This is for a prosthodont, and it's hard for you. If Elijah came to me and said that, I actually will share with you, I could likely do that as a speaker, but it would be very hard for me. So if you're not a speaker who speaks all the time, don't raise your hand and say, I'm going to do the 1-hour monologue. If you're a dentist who doesn't restore worn down teeth all the time, don't be like, I'll just do 28 crowns and see how it goes. Just say, no, there's different people who do that. Case selection in life is so important, life and dentistry.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I've heard you say a lot of acronyms. One of them I've heard you say ABC. Is that like in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, when Alec Baldwin says, he points to his watch and he says, always be closing? Is that the same thing, or is that something different?
I like it in a bizarro world like Seinfeld the opposite way. ABCs for dentists is always be connecting, always be collaborating, and always be caring about each other. So for some reason, if you go to a party with a bunch of young parents, we all bond together so we can all get to the happy hour sooner, so we can all get our kids together. For some reason, dentists stab at each other. They don't like each other. It's the dental student hunger game. So ABC is always be connecting, always be collaborating, always be communicating. We'll create a much better dentisting world doing that. We just have to shed the toxic mindset that dental school taught that we're in competition with each other, which we're not.
That is an amazing point, because in reality, when the patient is in your chair, you're not in competition with each other. You're in competition with that big screen TV, that car,
For sure.
their cell phone, some tangible product that they're paying for. Usually patients will say to me about, a few implants, oh, that's the cost of a car. Not, I'm going to go down the street because they're cheaper than you. Once they're in your chair. So we should, like you said, be really like more of a community, because there's 9 or 10 other dentists in my town. And up until like 2 or 3 years ago, I knew none of them. And this is not a big town. So it's this, you're right. It's this weird thing where we live these parallel worlds, and we should be getting together every month or every quarter and kind of sharing stories. And instead we have these own, our own lives going on and don't communicate.
What you said is important. I think this goes back, and we can go a few extra minutes to it. So what you said, I want to just stop for a second, because I believe the way to really make dentistry better and fix a lot of things is for those 9 or 10 dentists in your town to meet routinely, once a month, once every other month, not for CE, for beers, for coffee, whatever. And here's how we can help with Job Connect. You're going to meet, and Dr. Eric is going to need an associate 2 days a week. And your friend, Dr. Susan, is going to need an associate 2 days a week. And you're going to bond together and hire one. And you're going to say, you're going to work for both of us, and we're both going to help you. We don't run our practices the same, and we don't do everything the same. But I believe that there's so many stressed out, exhausted practice owners who don't have enough for a full-time associate, but have enough for a part-time. I literally believe there's a dentist down the street with the same. And it's like getting a babysitter that can be in both offices. And if dentists can do that, they will solve 3 people's problem: their morale problem and stress, the other practice owner, and this magical newest dentist will have a full-time position with 2 people who care. And if we don't do that, Eric, it's going to be a big problem, because why are the DSOs hiring these associates? Because they have full-time positions of need for them. And I just want to share with you, I mean, this is a really good point. I know you've talked a lot about fitness, and I try to too. What's better, no food or McDonald's? McDonald's is better. What's better, right? If you have no food, fast food's better. So these is new dentists just say, why do they work for corporate dentistry? Not that corporate dentistry is inherently bad. It's because they're offering them an actual job. I just ate with 2 young dentists at Elvez, and they said, we didn't get any offers in private practice where we could support ourselves. And I'm not judging people. They're now working for one of the biggest DSOs around. So if you make that community and you connect with Jill and I and say, hey guys, we need one for 2 of us, and you do something no one's ever done, Eric, and collaborate with the dentist down the street, you can help 3 people. But it's, as you know, and you're a leader in this, it's an uncomfortable move for most dentists. We're going to have to get over our isolation part. That
idea is crazy, but it just might work.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes so much sense. I need 2 days a week. You need 2 days a week. We're 3 miles apart. Let's make this happen.
You know what I want to say, Eric, you're just such a kindred with me. You know what I say that to dentists sometimes who are not like us? They go, but what if that associate learns the secrets? I go, what secrets? You use the Chamferber? I do too. What secret? Insurance sucks? I do too. There's no secrets. I mean, chefs are crazy, right? I worked in restaurants my whole life. Chefs are volatile, whether they're male or female. We watch the shows. There's a lot of parallels between chefs and dentists, but chefs have a much, much better community of collaboration. You work for a top chef, you go do your own thing, you stay there, they show you how to chop. They do not have I ain't telling you how to make bouillabaisse stuff, Eric. Like they have a much better community than we do. It's built into their fabric. They got just as much volatility, just as much emotionalism, but their bonding together is much better.
I actually lock my burrs up so my associate can't see which burrs I use.
You have a shoulder burr? Wow, that's a state secret.
It's a secret burr. Paul, thank you so much. Any last words of advice or any last nuggets you want to share out there with the young dentists before we wrap things up?
Really do. So I'm always open. ABC is also always be changing and open to change. And there's a really great show called 7 Days Away on Netflix, which talks about 7 days away from a big deal event. Kentucky Derby, Space Shuttle launch, but my favorite one is 11 Madison Park. So 11 Madison Park is one of the best restaurants in the country in New York City. And they one time renovated it. They moved it to the Hamptons for the summer and moved it back. Great episode for leadership. The chef of 11 Madison Park, one of the best in the planet, during the pandemic, reevaluated his relationship with food, reevaluated his relationship with the planet, and he turned his high-end $300 tasting menu 100% into all vegan, first ever. He no longer serves any meat. And what I find with a pivot like that, and I'm repeating some stuff on podcast, is he was at the top and willing to change. So my whole thing is, maybe you don't know if you need an associate, find out more about it. Ask some good questions. Think about making changes. Instead of worrying what's going to go wrong, think, how could this go right for me? That is my last message, whether it's with Dentist Job Connect, trying out a new burr, or reaching out to the dentist down the street.
Awesome. That's such great advice. Paul, thank you so much. Again, Dr. Paul Goodman, Dentist Job Connect program. You can go to dealsfordentist.com and you can get $200 off. The Dentist Job Connect program, you can bring to life your associate opportunity to over 32,000 dentisting humans. Paul, let's be in touch.
Awesome, Eric. You're awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Take care.